Ring magic is different from the magic of theater because the curtain never comes down, because the blood in the ring is real blood, and the broken nose and the broken hearts are real. Sometimes they are broken forever. Stories from the Corner by FX Toole, which were adapted into this movie, $1 Million Baby. Frankie is a boxing gym owner who has trained many promising fighters, but has never been able to take them all the way to a title bout. On the other side of the story is Maggie. It's fight night and Frankie closing his fighter's cut to stop bleeding, or else the fight will end and they would lose. Maggie is watching him from a distance. She decides to pursue her dream of becoming a boxer once she realizes she is in a real dead-end situation. She is a 31-year-old waitress in a diner. After clockroom, she approaches him by calling his name, and he is like, "Do I owe you money or something?" She says no, she is a fighter and needs him to train her. But Frankie is skeptical about women fighters, tells Maggie she is too old to start training, and rejects her. From beginning to the end, there is a narration by Scrap, Morgan Freeman's recognizable voice. He is one of Frankie's ex-fighter. Frankie feels guilty because he didn't stop Scrap from fighting in his fight. Scrap ignored Frankie to throw the towel, and it was that fight 25 years ago that causes him to lose one eye, ending his boxing career. This is how Scrap ended up being the caretaker of Frankie's boxing gym. This is also why Frankie takes a conservative approach when training upcoming boxers. Although he's a top-notch trainer, he's afraid to take them to the top. He's afraid of what comes with the loss. Thus, we see a boxer leave Frankie for a more aggressive manager. Maggie is extremely determined to prove Frankie wrong. She shows up at the gym constantly, and Frankie rejects her every time. Also, we see her tough life at work. She picks others' leftover food for her dinner. At night, she hits the gym for training. After a while, Scrap continues to give Maggie pointers on how to improve and get better. Frankie is still unwilling to commit to become Maggie's trainer. We see him watching his fighter win champion's title after he left him for another manager. After the fight show ends, he can't sleep. He visits the gym and brings Scrap a cheeseburger and sees Maggie training. It's her birthday. Frank is like, "It's your birthday, and how old does that make you, champ?" She goes 32 and asks Frankie if he wants to hear more about the miserable life she have had up to now. Then she goes, she doesn't have father, her mother carrying some 100 extra of fats, and her sister producing other child. Her brother is in the jail. Her whole life is a joke. She shows her passion to become a boxer, and it's working on Frankie. After much persistence on her 32th birthday, Maggie gets Frankie to agree to train her. We also see minor backstory of Frankie's strange relationship with his daughter, Kate. We see a few shots of letter Frankie writes to his daughter coming back marked "Return to Sender," which he adds to one of the many shoe boxes full of such letters in his closet. Frankie's guilt about his daughter is why he goes to church every day, so we never actually learn specifically why he feels so guilty. Eventually, Frankie and Maggie comes together, realizing that they have no one but each other. A year and a half of training and many knockouts, Frankie brings her a robe and boxing trunks with the name Mukushla embroidered at the back. Undefeated Maggie wants to go for a world title championship in Las Vegas. Frankie is hesitant, not wanting her to get hurt. Before going for the big fight, Maggie takes him to see her mother and sister, who live in a trailer. Maggie surprises her mom with a new house just a mile away from their current trailer. But her mom is angry. If welfare finds out about the house, she will stop getting her checks. Her mom says why Maggie didn't just give her the money, and her sister complains why there is no fridge and furniture. Maggie is like, "I will send you more money, don't worry." Her mother notices the bruise on her face and asks Maggie if Frankie beats her. Maggie says it's from the fight, she is a fighter. Then she smirks and says, "Find a man and marry him, live proper." Like, are you kidding me? She is a champ, mom. Maggie has never expected much from her family in the first place, but this time she thought she could make them happy. On the way back, she turns to Frankie and says he is the only one she got. Then she talks about her father and her old-age dog, which her father put out of its misery, and the place that she and her father used to come for eating. They visit the place and Frankie likes it, and maybe he will buy the place someday, he says. Frankie finally decides that Maggie is ready for the next level. He sets up a series of fights against skilled British and European opponents. Before entering the ring, the first time he gives her that fight drop with a Gaelic phrase on it. He won't tell her what it means. The crowd loves it and chants it as she enters the ring. Maggie wins every fight easily, which sets her on the path to championship bout. To go to LA for the big fight, Frankie asks Maggie if they fly there or drive. She chooses fly there, drive back. In the championship fight, Maggie boxes against a current middleweight champion. The title holder is not only aggressive and tough but also fights dirty. During the first 2 rounds, she pounds on Maggie while taking a couple of penalty points for 2 foul punches. The referee warns her that next time she will be disqualified. The next couple of rounds, Maggie takes a different approach, advised by Frankie, and starts to break ground. She clearly is winning the fight and the crowd goes crazy. She goes back in and after a few punches and almost a knockout later, her opponent struggles to her feet after a 9 count. The referee sends them back to their corners. Maggie turns her back, and before she can reach her corner, her opponent moves toward her while the referee isn't looking. She takes a deadly shot at Maggie's blind side and sends her landing on her head on the corner stool, breaking her neck. Maggie suffers a spinal neck injury that leaves her paralyzed for life. The last quarter of the movie is about human morals and really tough. Maggie regrets why she turned back in the ring and should have protected herself all the time, as Frankie always used to say repeatedly. And Frankie blames Scrap for making him accept to train her, and he calls every hospital in the country but gets rejected. After 2 months, they are able to move her. They take 6 hours ambulance trip, which reminds us Maggie saying flying there, drive back. Maggie is bedridden for a long time and eventually has to have her leg amputated due to bed sores turning gangrenous. Maggie's family arrive at a nearby hotel, and after first spending a week visiting Disneyland and other tourist destinations, they visit Maggie just to get her to sign a legal document placing her assets in her mother's control. Maggie asks if her mother watched the fight. She's like, I fought good. Then her mother coldly says she lost the fight. Frankie is skeptical, but they tell him to mind his own business. He leaves disgusted at them. They try to get her mark by putting the pen in her mouth, but Maggie tells them to leave and that she never wants to see them again. Then Maggie asks Frankie for a favor. She asks if he remembers the story she told him about her father and their dog. She no longer wants to leave. She had her chance at glory and wants to die remembering the crowd cheering her name. Frankie refuses, but lost and broken, thinking about doing it, but he cannot make his mind. Later, Frankie is awoken in the middle of the night. Maggie has beaten her tongue, hoping to bleed to death. The doctors save her and stitch her tongue back up. She rips the stitches out and tries it again. This time they cover her tongue so she can't get to it. She cannot talk anymore though. Frankie now realizes how badly she wants to die and contemplates slowly killing her by letting her leave or end her life while she is leaving. He visits her after a whole day out, thinking about what Maggie wants, then goes to the gym to get what needs. Scrap asks if Frankie has some kind of fight by himself that he doesn't know. Frankie apologizes from Scrap for saying that it was all his fault. Scrap is like, yes, you're damn right. I found you a fighter and you made her the best fighter she could be. He tells him Maggie walked through that door with nothing and after a year and a half she fought for championship of the world. Frankie did that. Most of people die wondering what if and never having a chance at anything. He tells him that at least Maggie had her shot of a lifetime, and if she dies today, her last thought would be, I think I did alright. Frankie decides to fulfill her wishes and end her life. He walks into her room unnoticed. He tells her what he's going to do and she can only smile. He tells her that the Gaelic phrase embroidered on her robe and chanted by her fans means my darling, my blood. He removes her breathing tube and injects her with adrenaline. She dies instantly. In the end, we see Scrap writing a letter to Frankie's daughter and we realize that the narration all along has been this letter. He ends it along the lines of, he never returned to the gym and I never saw him again. I am sure he is somewhere between here and there, but wherever he is, I am sure he is doing just fine. I just wanted to let you know what kind of man Frankie was. I wanted to let you know what your father was like. The final shot is of Frankie eating pie at the diner that Maggie had taken him to. We are meant to presume that he retired from running the gym and bought the diner as he told Maggie he might like to do someday.